Good morning, welcome to Greenwood Bonsai Studio here today. We want to do a follow-up video on this tree beside me here. Now to date this has been one of our most popular videos. We worked on this tree about a year and a half ago at the end of January, and now we're the following year in August. So about a year and a half ago a customer came up and said he'd got a big maple tree in his garden, been growing there for 25 or 30 years, and he was wondering about that we could make it into a bonsai for him. So my suggestion to him was to dig it up in early spring. So we dug it up at the end of Jan and wrapped it in a black plastic bag and just drove it straight up to us here at Greenwood. So you might remember, if you check back and have a look at that first video, the tree was quite large. We cut it back quite drastically. Some of you might have said that I did it too drastically, so I'm here to show you today that I didn't do it too drastically. But we cut quite a lot off it at the time, a lot of thick branches that weren't very attractive, crossing branches, to get a better shape and style into this tree. You can see here with me doing that work in the first video, the first initial styling of this garden tree. So I'm going to take this one off here now. Now I've cut these off before, close to the trunk like that, and sometimes I do get a bit of dye back. So in this instance I'm going to cut it just across here. I'm just going to leave a bit of a stub for now. Do you want to just hold it on that side, Tom, while I just go through it with this saw? You got it? Yep. Okay. There we go. With that removed, got rid of that ugly movement. We've got a more elegant structure and line to the tree. And don't forget, when we're trimming this back like this, I'm not necessarily trimming this back to make this look good today. I'm trimming this back to make this look like a bonsai tree in 5 years' time and in 10 years' time. So at the time when we did that, we left a stub on the trunk, and it's in here, look, because these dissector maples have got a bit of a tendency to die back into the trunk. So where we took this big branch off, we left a stub to allow for the die back. It sprouted from the trunk. It's been growing quite well. So now we're going to give it a trim. The customer contacted us about a month ago. He said it's been doing really well, and he kindly offered to bring it up to us so we could do a follow-up video to show you guys how it's progressed in the last few months. So all this low down growth that it's put out from the trunk, we don't need this, so just get in with a pair of scissors, just trim this off. And this section here we're not going to need. So these little adventitious sprouts it's put out, we can take them off. We tidy that up later with a concave pruner, but just take it off with scissors for now. A little stub in here. And then let's have a little look at trimming the actual foliage. So this has been untrimmed since we did it. And at the end of the first video we mentioned about tipping the tree up at a slightly different planting angle. So what we can do, we can wedge it up, and I think we were going to put it, I think the front was about where it is to you guys, and we thought about tilting it up on the trunk to that sort of angle. So with that done, let's just have a little bit of a trim on the foliage. It's been untrimmed since we worked on it last time, and I'd left some growth on it, and some of this is back budded quite well. See here, this branch coming off to the side, I want it to be weeping down more, so we could pull this down with some wire into here, is one option. The other option is, it's got a bud further back in here, we could just grow this out and get rid of that one. So we've got a couple of options with that. We might pull that down. The top of it, this section, we've trimmed to here. It was way out here at the time. We've trimmed it back. It's put some growth out here, but nothing in this section here down to here, look. So that now looks a little bit strange. So I think the best thing to do with that, it's budded out further down here, is to take it back further into this section to get rid of that leggy bit at the top of the tree. Okay. Also, The same with this section here. This is budded further back, and I take that down to here. This is growing out a bit too much here. This might pull down a little bit on this side. At the back here, we've got growth. We left this one growing upwards. There's all sorts of back buds in here. I think we'll get rid of that upward growing growth now. Take that section off to make this taper down slightly better. And then a little bit more pruning in here. So right down at the origin of this branch, we've got some foliage we can tidy up in here that we don't need. And then these sections here, they're a little bit long and hiding the trunk. We can just nip those back a little bit. I don't need this bit here. This branch here is coming off there, look, don't need those little whisper shoots. We're going to keep most of this foliage here. I'm just going to nip the tips back. This section here is a bit long, so for now we'll take off some of the stuff that's growing upwards a little bit, and then we can let it grow out again. And you can see here, these dissectums do tend to send growth out in sort of layers, so I'm trying to take this top layer off and leave the lower layers that are more weeping down. So a little bit off there, round here, this section in through here. This growing up too much. This is cutting across the trunk. That's in the nook and cranny there, that can come off. In fact, this branch here, not really very attractive growing up like that. So let's shorten it back. We'll leave a little stub like that. Then round this side, we can shorten these back, and we'll work our way around the tree. So giving the tree a bit more of a trim, a couple of things we do need to do. I'm going to pull this branch down into here, and then this branch here, we're going to pull that down and forward into here for now. But before we do that, let's address this stump here. Like I said, left that on to allow it to die back. So I'm just going to take that off across here, and then we're going to carve this out a little bit more, and we'll put some cut paste wound sealant on this cut. So that large cut, we're going to put some cut paste on this, Japanese cut paste wound sealant, to allow that to roll over and callus over. So pop some of that on there. And these smaller cuts further down the tree, I'm just going to use some lac balsam. Normally I use lac balsam on all the cuts, but this big one, putting the cut paste on like this will seal it, promote healing, but it'll allow me to sort of take this cut paste off next year and have a look and see how it's progressing. So we're using that on the larger cut, and then these smaller ones we'll use lac balsam on. So that just pop that out of the tube. It's quite a good colour match for the bark. There's a cut here at the back we did, and then this one, dab some of that on. There's another little cut at the top of the tree where we took that thicker section off just in here, so that wants a little piece on there, don't forget that. And then there was another bit round the back where we use a concave pruner on this section just here, So another bit of wound sealant on that. Let's have a look at those branches that we said we were going to move. So one of them was this one here. So what I'm going to do with this is we'll just start a little bit of wire on that branch there, and we'll wire along just loosely on this tip of the branch. Just try and get between all the leaves and the foliage. That piece of foliage is coming off that other branch, so move that out of the way along like this. And then I've used a fairly thick wire for this so that I can then get this branch to where I want it to be. We can manipulate the tip of this branch a little bit with that wire that I've put on, and then this wire is going to come down. I want it to be about here. Just put a little hook on the bottom of that look, and just tuck it under that pot so we don't need loads of heavy wiring on it at the moment. And then we could do a similar thing with this. Pull this down. This root on here we don't really need, this surface root. So this one hasn't really got much coming off it. Look, little wispy root at the end there. So this would come off, but it might be useful at the moment to just pull that branch down too. So I'm going to get another piece of wire, and I'm using thickish wire for this. If you use thin wire, you'd have to put some cushioning on the branch, but this thicker wire I'm using it because it won't cut in as quickly. And this is just this will just be on here till the end of the season. So this is just going to come down. We can just thread that through there, look. So that wants to be about here. And with thicker wire, we don't have to loop it, tie it off. We can just literally loop it around like that. So it's just a start to drift that branch in here on the left to pull this one down. Now this one here is also sticking up a little bit, so I think we'll leave that for now because that's quite good like that. We have got the option with this branch, there is a thinner branch underneath it here, but at the moment I don't think that's developed enough to take over from this one at the top, so I'm going to leave that one on that side. There's a couple of stronger bits of growth up here that I just want to just nip these tips out of. Just always taking these back to a pair of leaves. That one there is a bit too vertical. This one here is coming out a little bit too much, this section here. But to say this was a garden tree, it was literally dug out of chap's garden a year and a half ago. Underwent quite drastic pruning initially. It's well established in this pot now. Been in here a year and a half. It's been growing ever so well, as you can see. So this is just its second pruning along its bonsai journey, if you like, and it's a tree that we like to sort of keep going back to, and with a bit of luck it will continue to flourish, and the owner will bring it up again so we can show you in future. The next thing we'll do with this tree next year is we'll take this root off here, and we'll probably try and angle it up like this, maybe change the pot that it's in, but it's had a bit of a haircut today and a bit of tidy up. We've addressed that stump that we'd left on the trunk for good reason, because when I carved that stub off there was no dye back into that main trunk at all. It was just fresh, green, nice wood. If we'd cut that flush last year, which you normally would do, or even concave, it would have died back into here, being a dissectum. They are, like I said before, they are a little bit prone to it. So if you haven't already done, once you watch this video, go back and watch that first one, and you'll see the transition that we've managed to achieve with this tree, and in the last year and a half. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you.